Well, hey guys, Juan here. Thanks for stopping by my channel and checking out this video. So if you're watching this, I imagine that you're in the market to buy this soundbar here, or maybe you've already purchased it and you're looking at how to get it set up. Well, today we're going to unbox this thing and see how well the Roku brand does when it comes to surround sound and sound bars. Now, I have made a few soundbar videos in the past. I've done some Samsung, some Sonys, and so I'm really interested to see what Roku brings to the market. Now, I do have to be very careful with the way I say Roku because I always want to say Roku. And I've made a few videos on how to take and mirror your Roku to a smart TV, and boy, did they ever let me know in the comments that I was saying it incorrectly. So Roku, not Roku. So I'm a big fan of how Roku makes their streaming devices and their TVs, and I think that they're probably the leaders in the industry when it comes to their streaming platform, because pretty much anytime there's an app comes out, Roku is going to have it, versus Apple TV and Amazon Fire Sticks and all that. So what I really like about this soundbar is that Roku streaming is already built into the soundbar. So not only are you getting a soundbar, but you're also getting a streaming stick in the sense. So that was probably the most attractive thing that got me to take a good look at this particular item. Now, this soundbar here does have a subwoofer that you can buy extra to help increase that bass and get a better surround sound feel, but I just went with the regular soundbar for now, and if I do like this, maybe I'll pick up the subwoofer and do a video on that later. But let's go ahead and unbox this thing here, see what's inside. Okay, here it is. This is the Roku soundbar, and it's pretty heavy duty. I mean, it's got some weight to this thing, so this thing ain't gonna slip off of your TV stand or wherever you put this thing very easily. And on the back, the first thing I noticed, it does have these screw holes, so that way in case you do want to mount it, you can do so on the wall. I myself will not be doing that just because of the way that my setup is where I'm going to be using this. They do give you an optical cable on here. A lot of times they give you a cheap optical cable, a lot of these manufacturers. So I always upgrade my optical cable. So I'll put a link in the description down below of a better optical cable that I think will be better than this factory default kind. Also, on the back of your TV, there are some HDMI ARC outputs. If you do have a newer TV, that's another good way of hooking up a sound bar, is to that HDMI ARC input, whatever it's called. But we'll use this optical cable for now. Comes with the remote here. It's your typical Roku remote. It's got all the buttons on there. That's got a Netflix button on there, a Disney Plus, which is great because that's one of the newest apps that just came within the past year. It's got a Hulu button and a Sling TV. I don't know anybody that has Sling TV. It does have a couple batteries here, Duracell at that. Usually you get these cheap knockoff batteries, but they did give you a name brand battery. It's got your instruction booklet here, Roku Soundbar Quick Start Guide. I don't ever read those things, I always just dive into it. Might be the man thing in me. Also, it's got your power cable here. Now, here's the thing that I noticed about this power cable that I really like. It's not big and bulky. You know how a lot of these electronics that you buy come with that huge like brick AC adapter? This one doesn't. This is it right here. I think that a lot of these electronics should go this route. I don't know what kind of technology they have to do to thin out the cable, but I like it when it's a small cable like this and it's not just more clutter with those big AC adapter bricks. And then also they gave me an HDMI cable, which is great because a lot of these soundbars don't. They either give you the optical cable or the HDMI cable. They don't ever give you both. These guys did. Okay, so looking at this soundbar here, it does have a fabric feel on the front side here, but it is kind of hard. So it's covering up the speakers here. And on the top here, it's got the Roku branding. And then on the back, you do have a slot for a USB hookup in case you need to hook up something that way, a media streaming device or something. It's got the optical cable hookup here, HDMI, and then it's got a reset button on the back. And then it's got a spot to plug in the AC power adapter. On the bottom here, it does have a couple rubber feet to get some traction. Okay, before we go and get this thing set up, let me go ahead and put some measurements on here. I know it's a lot of these tech YouTubers never give you measurements. I like to, because I like to measure out how this device is going to look in my space. Is it going to fit in between the legs that I have on my TV? You know, how's it going to look? So let me go ahead and give you the measurements on it. I'm going to go from side to side. We're about 32 inches exactly. The depth of this thing is 3 3/4, and then the height we're looking at 2 3/4. So that gives you the dimensions on this soundbar to see, you know, if it'll fit your space. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this thing set up on my TV and see what it sounds like. Okay, so now the soundbar is hooked up. I did hook it up with the HDMI cable, so if your TV, you have to look on the back of your TV, make sure that it has the HDMI ARC input. It's got to be labeled ARC, and then hook it up that way. The reason I didn't hook up the optical cable like I normally do is because we are using the Roku streaming player through this, so hook up with that HDMI ARC output if you do have that. So it's all hooked up there. Now we just got to pair the remote control and get it set up. So you just put your batteries in, and then there's a button that you push right here. Hold that down for about 3 seconds, and then it'll pair your remote with the soundbar. Okay, after you pair your remote with the soundbar, now you're just going to follow the instructions on the screen to get started. Just go by step on what it says to do. Now, upon setting up, if you do have a TV that doesn't have the HDMI ARC input, no problem. You'll get a screen that comes up like this, stating that something went wrong. All you do then is just hook up your optical cable instead of using that HDMI. Okay, next up on the setup process, you'll come to a screen that comes to here where you gotta log on to either a computer or your smartphone. Go to roku.com/link, put in that code. You will have to create a Roku account if you don't have one, which isn't a big deal. The only big deal is they do ask for a credit card to put on file. That's if you're wanting to make any kind of purchases. But I've had Roku devices in the past. They don't, like, you know, surprise charge you for anything. So don't fear that portion of it, but they do ask for that. And you do have to create an account to get further on this process. So go ahead and log in online, and once you do, it'll start updating the channels. It'll ask you what kind of streaming channels you want, whether it be like Netflix, Hulu. They'll try to get you to download some other channels, but you can just hit continue or skip on a lot of those. Just download the ones that you know that you're going to use. Okay, once it's complete, you'll see it says all done, and then you just click over, and then you'll get an intro video to your Roku player. Some cool animation. Okay, now that everything's installed, let me just give you a couple quick first impressions with this soundbar. On my particular setup, it's kind of got an annoying thing to it. My legs come out right here, so the soundbar cannot go completely against the TV there. It does come out a little bit. So as you can see there's the legs, and then there's the soundbar. So it's gonna be out a little bit. So, I mean, it's not a big deal, it's not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice if it would have been able to push back in completely. It does set up a little bit taller than the TV. Some of these other soundbars that I've used have been pretty flush or below. So I don't know if that's quite a deal breaker either. I guess it all depends on your setup. Maybe some of you guys will even be hanging this on the wall, so that definitely won't matter to you. But yeah, those are my first impressions so far. But here's the thing that I do love about the Roku remote and device setup. On the Roku remote here, you can turn up the volume up and down on these things, which is really, really nice, because I hate having two remote controls. I used a Sony soundbar in the past, and I still had to have two different remotes. The Sony to turn up the soundbar, and then the TV remote to control the TV. So that was annoying. With this setup here, you can do it all on one. So this will turn on and off your TV, and it'll turn the volume up and down. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put up a YouTube video to play some music, to give you guys a little sound test of how this thing can perform.
All of the
Okay, so I give you a little sample of what this sound bar can sound like, and just my first impressions of it. It's pretty loud. It does really, really well for a budget sound bar. But I know it's gonna be different on your end. Some of you guys are listening through a smartphone, some of you guys are listening through a computer, or maybe your TV. So you can't really gauge exactly a good sound output of this thing based on what you're listening to. So you'll just have to kind of take my recommendation for it. I think it's a pretty good sounding sound bar. Now I did crank it up to about volume 40, and that was plenty loud. It was too loud actually. So I couldn't imagine if you were to crank this thing up to like 75 or even full blast, how loud this thing would get. But right there around the 30 mark would be plenty enough, especially for an area like this, which is a bedroom. So if your living space, I bet you that'll be plenty loud enough for your living room also. So like I mentioned previous in the video, this soundbar does have an extra subwoofer that you can purchase with it to give you more of that booming and that bass sound whenever you are maybe listening to some kind of action movies that have a lot of explosions and stuff like that. That subwoofer would really come in handy for that. The only bad thing is that it's another thing that you have to buy. I think for your average consumer like myself, you could probably get away with just the soundbar itself. But if you are an audiophile and you want more, then get a subwoofer to add to this thing, and you'll have a really good audio setup, a really good soundbar to enhance your movie watching experience. Now I am going to make another video on this soundbar after using it for a little bit of time, so be on the lookout for that. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that. If this video was helpful to you, go ahead and throw a thumbs up on it. And like I said, subscribe to my channel because I make tech videos all the time, and I'd love to have you back on the next one. Till the next video, be creative.